here on either of those.
All right, Melba, I'm going to take us live. Hang on.
The chat. I'll call your cases out of turn after I go through the arraignments. And anybody who's in the courtroom, I am going to handle Division 9 first. So I am going to handle Judge Hernandez's Division.
Ooh, apologies, everybody.
9. Stephen Araque Gonzalez. Good morning.
Welcome to Surviving the Survivor, everybody. The podcast that brings you the best guests in true crime. Crazy opening this morning, but this is the hearing. They're talking to another defendant first, but we're waiting for Courtney Clenney. The great Melba Pearson is joining us, who is an attorney and a teacher at FIU, Florida International University, and hails from the great state of New York. We're going to listen in for a moment as I try to get my notes up here.
Thank you, Your Honor. Thank you. You too. Lake St. Leisure, probably.
The state filed and find out information charging this defendant with 1 count of driving while license suspended knowingly, a misdemeanor in the 2nd degree. The state asks it be transferred to traffic court.
All right, signing an order is transferred into the county as soon as I get one. Dawn McDowell.
The state filed an information consolidating case 24021-021896 into case F24021-895, charging this defendant down with McDowell as the A co-defendant for 1 count of cocaine possession, a felony in the 3rd degree, and Keith Wilson, who's not on calendar, as a B co-defendant to 1 count of possession of cocaine, a felony in the 3rd degree. The state would ask to transfer the co-defendant case, Keith Wilson, from Division 20 in Judge Offfield Division to Division 9.
So we'll transfer that to Division 9.
And for the A co-defendant, the state's offer is drug PTI. And for the B co-defendant, the state's offer is an adjudication credit for time served.
Okay. Is it printing in Judge Offield's division today? Okay. Okay, so we'll print both. We'll print both then on Monday. All right, so both, let's print on Monday. Thank you. Kavina Ferguson.
The state is requesting a reset to the 40th day.
Yes, Your Honor. And at this time, we would be asking for a dollar bond if the state has no good cause.
Any good cause?
Not that I'm aware of, Your Honor.
Dollar bond granted. 11/24. Cassandra Nieves.
The state is requesting a reset to the 40th day.
Are you Miss Nieves? Okay. The state does not know whether they're filing criminal charges. They need to do further investigation. So we're resetting it for 11/26. Okay, so you can come in on that day. Okay. Okay. Thank you. Barry Reduced.
The state filed an information charging this defendant.
Are you Mr. Reduced? All right, come forward.
I'm just going to mute her for a moment, and then we're going to listen in together. But this is, again, another hearing for Courtney Clenney. She's the so-called OnlyFans model. She had a following at one point of over 2 million people. She's accused of stabbing her boyfriend, Christian Obumseli, who went by Toby, of killing him back in 2022, on April of 2022. She was later arrested. So it happened in April, arrested in August. This is actually a real high-end condo that they were living in, which is about probably 3 miles from where I'm sitting right now. The COE and I actually know someone that lived in the building at the same time, excuse me, that this happened. So what the hearing is about specifically, we're about to find out. There's been a lot of strange things happening. The defense says that she threw this knife at Christian, claiming they did it in self-defense. State says there's no way this knife was thrown from the trajectory that it came in. And then they brought a defense witness, an expert, about 3-4 weeks ago who used a pig carcass. Melba, have you ever seen a pig carcass used in a courtroom? And I think go ahead, Melba.
Yeah, so good morning. And
Good morning.
that's definitely a bizarre one. I know that it's been used in other testing, usually in the context of the lab, not usually, used as part of an exhibit in a trial. not impossible, but definitely unique. But I see what the defense was trying to go for there. I know defense counsel Jude Fachindomo, go way back with him. Definitely creative. I'll give him credit for that. Can't say I agree, but I will give him credit for being creative on that one and fighting zealously for his client, which is what you're supposed to do as defense counsel.
And my notes just appeared. Sometimes this cloud makes me nervous. So I've got my notes here ready to go. So Melba, one of the other issues, and we'll just go back, and this guy looks so sad at top left corner. But if you commit crimes, I'm not saying he's guilty, but if you commit crimes, then you're going to look like this guy. You're going to be upset. So another kind of interesting facet of all this, among the many, is that her parents, Melba, at one point were charged as well in this case. And then the charges were dropped. They related to them trying to, I think, hack into Christian's laptop. What can you tell us about that? And now that information, a lot of that information has been suppressed, which could be a big problem for the state.
Yeah, so basically, if my recollection is correct, what ended up happening is that she went to her parents' house at some point, or her parents were at the house that they shared together. Somehow, Christian Obinselli, the victim in this case, his laptop ended up in their possession. Now, here's where things get murky, because again, it's one of those things where it's not, I don't have any indication, or we don't have any indication that she bought it for him or the parents bought it for him or anything like that. It seemed to be his actual laptop. And then they were trying to get in there to be able to see if there was any messages back and forth, or I guess anything incriminating. So of course, the prosecutors are like, listen, this is witness, it's not witness tampering, excuse me, but it's evidence tampering and, all of this, and try to get the parents on felony charges. And eventually those charges ended up getting dropped and the case didn't stick. However, my understanding is that the prosecution is still trying to hold on to the laptop because they feel it has some evidentiary value, which again, I could see, because of the fact that if Christian had been writing people that he's, been so abused by the defendant in this case, would talk to his state of mind. It would talk to the context of the relationship that they had. And all indications are that they had a domestic violence relationship, that she was abusive towards him. And that's something that people often kind of miss in general, thinking that, oh, guys can't be victims of domestic violence. Yes, they can. And yes, a woman can be an abuser. And she was very abusive towards him, using racialized language, using racial slurs, hitting him. There's awful video showing footage from an elevator where she was seen beating him. So it's just, she's a piece of work.
Yeah, she is a definite piece of work. And by the way, his family is, really been a voice of concern and reason, and they have claimed that she's getting some preferential treatment because it was a biracial couple, and there could be something to that. So there's been a lot of intrigue, a lot of drama when it comes to this. Now, we mentioned this pig carcass. This defendant is a guy named Dr. John Maricchini, and he's quoted. And by the way, I've got Phil Waters coming on, who's a homicide detective, investigated over 400 homicides. He's joining at 12:30 along. We're not with Scott Duffy this week. Scott's got something else, which is the typical duo on Fridays. But we've got Rob D'Amico, who's retired FBI, retired military, and probably knows a thing or two about knife throwing. But basically, the defense is saying that she was being attacked, Courtney Clenney. She was in some kind of position on the floor and then just like flung a knife up. So they brought in this expert for the defense, is Dr. John Maricchini. He says, and I quote here, simply put, I was asked to investigate and review evidence as to whether a throwing knife, specifically the knife involved in this particular case, could penetrate and inflict a wound found on Mr. Obinselli. At 12:30, we're actually going to watch the demonstration. Happened in court. I think he tried 6 knives, and the 6th knife stuck. So that's kind of where we're at now. This has been going on. She's been incarcerated for over 2 years. So I'm hoping today that we actually get a trial date. I'm going to be going to this trial because it's local to where we live. But I don't want to give too much away right now because we are going to cover this again pretty extensively, plus the true crime news of the week coming up at 12:30. Meanwhile, as predicted, I don't know why this happened, but we did this show about Ellen Greenberg. She is the young woman, 2011. She's a school teacher living with her fiance, and she is found stabbed 20 times. 10 are to the back of her head and neck. 2 of them, an independent autopsy, not paid for by the family, revealed that 2 of the injuries were post-mortem. It's kind of hard to stab yourself once you're already not alive. And this was ruled a homicide the first few days, switched to an undetermined death. And then after a closed-door meeting with the medical examiner, Philadelphia police, prosecutors, that was not recorded, a closed-door meeting, suddenly it was ruled an unaliving. And then it gets really interesting when you find out that the potential suspect, his uncle is a high-ranking judge in Philadelphia, who's connected to the now Governor Josh Shapiro, who was the then AG. A lot of things are not smelling too good about this case. And that is a huge understatement. But for whatever reason, when we do these shows, we get like half the amount of views, which happened last night. So I'm just asking everyone again, please, not for me, but for the family, try to share last night's live. We had Josh and Sandy Greenberg. The parents have spent $800,000 of their own money. By the way, I did reach out to Keith Moore. Thank you, Nicole. But I reached out as well to Keith Morrison's producer. For whatever reason, it is hard to get traction on the story. Nancy Grace has a entire book coming out April 22nd about this. And there's some big documentaries being made, but it's time to turn the tide on that. Melba, I'm just curious, just having heard what I just said, your reaction. This seems to be one of the biggest travesties of justice or miscarriages of justice that I've seen.
Yeah, that does seem pretty suspect because number one, if you have 10 stab wounds to the back of your head, that's not self-inflicted. And the reality is, if you're going to unalive yourself, that's not, those injuries are not consistent with an unaliving. Those injuries are consistent with a homicide. And so that's almost sounding to me like this might be a domestic violence type situation. Maybe she was in a relationship with this person. And now, of course, this person seems to be able to use power, privilege, and connections to be able to escape accountability, which is unacceptable. So, yeah, I definitely join you and everyone else who is concerned in wanting to raise awareness around this and make sure that there is true justice for this family, because that's really unacceptable. But one thing, sadly, Trevor Noah did note this. And he said, basically, if you do a Netflix special on anything, you're pretty much assured to be able to get justice. I mean, we saw it with the Menendez brothers. We're starting to see that with so many cases. And we're like, I don't know if that should be true, but it is quite interesting to see how these shows and podcasts end up reflecting or changing the outcome of events in real life.
Yeah, and that's why I'm beseeching everyone who's a member of STS Nation to please share that. Please. This is some of the info for Ellen Greenberg. And by the way, we're waiting for a hearing with Courtney Clenney. The OnlyFans model has over 2 million subs, or did at one point on Instagram. She's been behind bars here in Miami-Dade County for 2 years for allegedly murdering her boyfriend in some sort of fit of rage. But this is the email here. I'm going to just bring us live to this hearing. These are obviously defendants who are going prior to Miss Clenny. And just so you know, the judge here, I just want to let everybody know, is Circuit Court Judge Laura Sharon Cruz. That is the judge. Courtney Clenney is represented, at least was, by Frank Prieto and Sabrina Puglisi. Do you know someone else, Melba? You mentioned a different name.
Yes, Jude Facidomo. I think all three of them generally work together. All good folks, all really zealous advocates.
All right. And the state attorneys, Khalil Quinan and Kathleen Hogue. You know them?
I do.
Yeah. All right. So there you go. Melba knows it all. We are Can't get over this guy. He looks just like he's had enough. The guy in the top left, do not commit crimes. Hope he's got to be proven, he's innocent, presumed innocent till proven guilty in a court of law. But let's watch together, and hopefully this thing begins shortly. Thank you all for being here. Share Ellen Greenberg, please.
Miss Wissett, I'm gonna pass Miss.
Melba, I'm going to keep you muted.
Till the end of calendar so that I can discuss it. Miss Wissett. Where she went? I don't see that Miss Wissett is still on. All right, Mr. Mayo, can I call a case for you?
Thank you, Judge. Good morning to you. I have
Good morning.
David Anthony Rivas, Anthony Mayo on his behalf.
All right, on page 15. David Rivas. This is on for plea and for the defendant to be present.
Oops, I apologize, Judge. I wasn't aware of that. I'm not.
Yeah,
My
I think that,
son out on maternity leave and my schedule might be a little off sometimes. If I appeared at the Raymond and the court set it for today, it's my fault that I didn't inform my client, Judge.
yeah, it's a PTI offer and I needed him here to
Oh.
discuss it with him. So I'm gonna reset it for next Wednesday for you to either have him on Zoom or have him in court to discuss it, okay?
Absolutely, Judge. And I'm sure he's going to be accepting the PTI, so we'll get it resolved on Wednesday.
All right, if you want to, you can bring him on Zoom today and we can talk about it today.
I'll do
Yeah.
my best, Judge, but
You want to
I'd
just
rather do
repass?
it Wednesday.
Okay, we can do it on Wednesday. What are the
Thank
terms of PTI?
It's PTI for 6 months with the special conditions of high-risk traffic school, a DWLS course, and 50 community service hours.
Got it. Thank you, Mr. Gann.
For you
No
reset
problem.
for Wednesday, I would prefer for him to be here in person if he can.
I'll make my best, Judge. I'll have him there.
Right.
Thank you.
11:20 for defendant to be present. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Petkovich is here for Raul Abrera Garcia.
Good morning, Your Honor.
Good morning. This is on page 10.
Mr. Abiel stepped out as well.
Yeah, but I also need, do you guys have anything new for him?
Judge Dr. Richardson did file a report. I don't know if you saw it. It does indicate competency. So now we have
Exactly.
2 incompetent and 1 competent. And so whenever Your Honor is ready, I know what I'm going to request.
Who's, is this, says Mr. Abbey Hall. Give me a moment so I can
Sure,
get him
Judge.
back in.
Okay.
Right. Is he back there? Anybody know?
he might be.
He's out there. Anybody else in court or on Zoom that I can address right now? Okay. I'm gonna go through the calendar. Who do we have in custody? I know that we have, Mr. Lachey, but who else? Oh, Antonio Thompson. What's the last name? Mexicano. Okay, on page 17.
Okay.
I have this on for a turn of property. I also need Mr. Abbey Hall here for that.
With full appropriate.
We're not going forward with any of those right now. All right, so let me go to the AC calendar, Juanica Hunt. When did
Okay,
she
perfect.
AC?
She was removed from monitor raise status.
I'm sorry? It's really hard to hear you. All right, so she cut her bracelet. All right, and that was back in June, and she had an AC issued for her. 2 cases. All right, State, do you know if you have a plea offer for her?
And so this is for Miss Hunt.
Juanica Hunt.
Yes, I'm checking. I believe. One moment, I just want to verify one thing, Miss Stewart. Yes, I believe it's an adjudication, bottom of the guidelines.
The guidelines?
43.95 months state prison to 35 years state prison.
Let's go ahead then for right now and put it in sounding and trial for,
It's gonna be an A.
looks like an A case. Yeah.
Yes, I believe it's gonna be an A.
All right, 130. Yes. Leonardo Nordello Lascano, also AC issued. When was that issued?
On 10/28.
All right, was that a trial date?
It was a trial date and it was no furthers.
All right, trial date, no furthers. Do you know what the plea offer was for that?
Yes, Your Honor, it was a withhold, 5 years reporting probation with anti-theft, stay away order and job logs. And Mr. DeCoste indicated that the defendant wanted to accept that, but the defendant failed to appear on the trial day, so the AC.
So let's reset this for Monday for plea and bring the defendant over.
11:18.
All right, Anna, will you also let Mr. DeCoste know that we have one of his cases set on Monday for plea? The defendant's last name is Nordello Lascano.
Yes, Judge.
Okay, thank you. All right, yes, I call a case for you.
Morning on 19M. Antonio Thompson, Richard Martinez on his behalf. He's in custody and present.
All right, so I asked for this to be placed on calendar because I am sending it to backup, as you know. I wanted to know whether there were any motions that needed to be argued before you go to see Judge James, who's going to be hearing it.
Apparently there is.
Okay, what is the motion?
So I do have an oral attendance request from the court. Our victim in this case was previously excluded for failure to appear to depositions. Since that time and since I've had the case, I've had good communications with the victim. I've had the victim come in person on yesterday to prep him for trial. I've also advised defense counsel that I do have good communications with the victim and that I would be able to produce the victim either today or before trial in order for the defense to depose that victim. So this time, the state is requesting that the court will allow the victim to be placed back on the witness list to testify at trial.
Okay, and was it done with or without prejudice?
It was done with, my notes say without prejudice.
And then.
That's my understanding, Your Honor. The only thing that this prosecutor didn't experience as we did, and you may recall, this is at least the third, if not the fourth time that a new prosecutor comes in and says, I have good contact.
and
We set him for deposition twice, doesn't show, we put it on for a rule. So, I mean, I don't know if that's going to happen again this time.
Listen, we're gonna keep it on for trial for Monday. You've
Well,
got today.
no, hold on. As far as trial is concerned, I'm arguing right now, pretrial motions in front of Gammas on a trial that's starting on Monday. So,
Okay, so you're not going to trial.
yeah,
Monday.
no. And besides, I mean, I wouldn't want to, I mean, this is a serious minimum mandatory. This is not a case I'm just going to run through a deposition.
Okay.
Especially when I had every reason to believe that he wasn't going to show.
No, and it is true that we've had multiple attempts to have this victim brought in. All right, so here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna take it off the trial calendar. What had happened, at the previous sounding setting, it was actually not set no furthers yet. It was at the point that it was going to be set no furthers at the last sounding. So I am going to set it no furthers now, in the next 8 week. And I'm gonna set it for status in 2 weeks. If you were not able to get that victim in for deposition within the next 2 weeks, they're gonna be stricken with prejudice.
Understood, Your Honor.
Will
And
you be
counsel-
able to, if you're gonna be in trial, will you be able to take a deposition in the next 2 weeks?
I believe so.
All
Maybe
right,
not next week, but certainly within 2 weeks.
So I
So
can
the state
either
will
set it
coordinate
for
you on
3
it.
weeks, or let's do this. We're gonna set it for status in 3 weeks. 12/6, and that's to make sure that the victim's deposition has happened. If it hasn't happened, then this is the last opportunity for that. If they don't come in, I'm assuming that they're not coming in.
Understood. Your Honor.
And then no further continuances for trial, in the next, 8 week. Let's do January.
For those who are just joining, this is obviously not the OnlyFans model, although maybe he is. We just don't know. But we are here to cover Courtney Clenney. She is the OnlyFans model from Miami, not originally, but was living here. Over 2 million followers on Instagram. Back in April of 2022, on April 3rd, something goes awry between she and her boyfriend, Christian Abumseli. And she stabs him and he dies. She does call 911 to say that, that there was a stabbing, that she did it. And the defense is claiming self-defense. They used a pig recently in a courtroom presentation that we're going to show you at 12:30 with Bill Waters and Rob D'Amico. And we're going to talk about it more extensively then, as well as true crime stories of the week. This hearing is obviously also including other defendants here in Miami-Dade County, but Courtney Clenney is scheduled to appear. This is the courtroom Zoom, and hopefully we're going to get there in a few minutes. So just let's listen in and see when Courtney's called.
For plea. And to bring him over. Okay,
Yes, Your Honor.
thank you. And then Rutan is on page 12. All right, this is just because the clock is ticking. It's one of two cases that I have set no furthers for 12-9.
So, Your Honor,
Okay.
I've been on this case for 2 weeks. Yeah, it's a brand new conflict. I mean, I'm sure that the clerk could share it, but I know that it's a matter of like 2 weeks that I've been on the case.
Okay.
I'm still collecting and going through discovery and getting acquainted with the client. I just wanted to lay a record on that. I question my ability to be effective on that date. I'm not asking for a continuance at this moment.
Let me see, what's the plea offer for this case? What are the guidelines for plea?
The guidelines are 30.6 months in state prison to 15 years in state prison. The offer is adjudication, 1 year reporting probation with a special condition of a mental health eval and treatment if necessary, and a stay away order from Patricia Steelman.
All right, so I'm gonna keep it on for 12-9 for plea. I'll take it off the trial calendar to see whether or not, since she scores almost 3 years at the bottom of her guidelines, but it's a 1 year probation offer, excuse me. And then we'll see where we go after that, if we need to give it another trial date. Okay, Mr. DeCoste?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, so 12-9 for plea. Defense continuance. Did you have any other cases on?
I did not, Your Honor. No.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, any sign of Mr. Abihoff?
No, we could recall the two arraignments.
We pass, Hayward Walker.
Yes, Your Honor. So for Haywood Walker, the defendant scores non-state prison to 5 years state prison, but has felony convictions. So the offer is going to be an adjudication, 3 years reporting probation, with the special conditions of anger management, mental health evaluation and treatment, substance abuse evaluation and treatment, and a stay away order.
And is this the
This
victim?
is his mother, I believe. Yes.
All right, so I can go ahead and give it sounding and trial dates. Or I can set up the plea. What's
Sounding in trial.
sounding and trial?
116, 127.
And then what is his bond? Status?
Pre-trial cleared at $1,000.
Okay. All right. All right, so we have sounding and trial dates, okay, and they're set in January, all right? His trial dates are set in January. Okay, so if you want to, you can talk to his attorney about it, okay? Thank you. We also passed Jamar Thompson.
Yes.
Yes. What are his guidelines and what's the plea offer?
Yes, Your Honor. For Mr. Thompson, he scores 12.6 months state prison to 30 years state prison with a 3-year man as a habitual felony offender. State's offers an adjudication, 3-year man as a habitual felony offender.
All right, so we're gonna go ahead and give you a trial date, okay? Sounding and trial in AC week.
116, 147.
116 and 127 are your next court dates, okay? All right, thank you. All right, Mr. Abihoff. Let me go back to a couple of cases for you. I have on Zoom, Ms. Petkovich is here for Raul Garcia Cabrera. On page 10, we got an evaluation from Dr. Richardson that was competent. We have 2 incompetent evals, and Ms. Petkovich, what did you want to say?
Well, Judge, I would like to have a hearing on this, and I was going to request that the court set it for a competency hearing.
All right. Okay, so what I'm gonna do, is Ms. Torres is here. This is for Raul Garcia Abrera.
Good morning, Your
Good
Honor.
morning.
Yes,
So we have
There
one
was something I
competent
wanted
and
to
two
point out.
incompetent. They're asking for a hearing.
okay.
No, yes?
No. I mean, because I read Dr. Richardson's eval this morning. And it was very, very detailed. As to his opinion on Mr. Abrea. But if both sides are requesting a hearing, then I will definitely set it up for one.
Okay, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna reset it for next week for Ms. Torres to contact the doctors to see whether, when they're available, and then what dates we have available, and we'll get a date for you, okay?
Sure, Judge. And remember, one of those doctors was my doctor. I can secure dates on availability for him as well. I don't know if she would be contacting him as well, but I was anticipating doing it.
So was there an ex parte done on this?
There was.
See, I don't have that, so I didn't know.
It's-
So yes, when
There's a
it-
copy in the court file.
okay, so when it comes to the ex parte, then yes, I would be in communication with you to let you know the dates.
Okay.
But yes, you would have to arrange that with the ex parte doctor. I
That's
would just be
understood,
taking,
Judge.
yeah, I would just be taking care of Dr. Sandra Klein and Dr. Richardson.
Perfect. And if we can make certain that she has my email address so that way when she gets those dates, I can cross them with Dr. Cunliffe's calendar as well.
Okay. And Your Honor, I just want to let the courts know that Wednesday, the 20th, is my last day until, no, not forever. Until I'm going on holiday, just until December 2nd. So I'm trying to get everything because I cannot ensure that there'll be coverage while I'm out.
Take a well-deserved holiday. I'm gonna set it for, you said the 20th is when you're leaving?
In the afternoon, I'm working that morning, so
let's
the
set it
20th would
for
be fine.
11:19 or 11:20. Let's do 11:20 then. And you guys can get me hearing dates, okay?
Perfect.
And Mr. Abelhoff has my email as well, so he can also provide it.
So you can give it to Ms. Torres.
Yes.
Perfect, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you
Your
all.
Honor, may,
All right,
May-
yes, yes.
Page 18M, Irvin Marshall. Mr. Muir is present via Zoom.
Assistant Public Defender Jessica Constant on his behalf. All right, yes, for Urban Marshall. Mr. Muir is here. Okay, this is a motion for permission to travel.
Yes, Your Honor.
The state has no objection. This is the gentleman who travels on a yearly basis? Okay,
He goes down to visit
Goes
his
down
daughter
to
in
visit.
Florida City.
all right, so I'm going to grant it, and then when does he want to come back?
He is coming back on December 1st. He's going to be gone between November 27th, returning December 1st.
So let's just set it for him to check in, via Zoom is fine on 12/2. Okay, great,
Perfect.
thank you.
Your Honor, I'm passing up the travel order for review and signature.
All right. Anna, will you call Judge James and make sure that he knows that he's not going forward on, Antonio Thompson on
Yes,
Monday, that we
Judge.
won't need that to be set and back up?
Will do.
Thank you. All right,
And page 13, Your Honor, Victor Manuel Hercules.
yes.
You should have the evaluation before you from Dr. Archer. 13.
I wish my
There's
last
a
name was
total of three
Hercules.
Evaluations. Dr. Rivera opines incompetent, no hospital. Dr. Durgan opines competent, and Dr. Archer opines incompetent, hospital. So we absolutely have a three-way split.
Yay, okay, same thing, 11:20 for hearing date, I assume.
And Your Honor, I'm passing up the IH order because Dr. Archer opined criteria.
Okay,
Perfect. Thank you very much.
all
Your
right,
Honor.
thank you. While I have you here, Mr. Abihoff, there are a couple of cases that we passed. One was Louis Mexicano.
Thank you. Good morning,
And I
Honor.
think that Mr. Alexander is here for that as well.
Yes, Your Honor.
On page 17. This is his motion to return property,
Yes, Judge.
truck, I think.
So I believe there's 4 items that are requested, Judge. I think the first one is a phone. So the phone dumps are still not complete. So we're still looking to get evidence off of that phone. Then there's surveillance cameras, to which there still are items that are captured on those cameras. So we're still pulling them, we still have them, so that's the issue with that. And then the car is the truck is the truck that's actually used in the homicide. So all of these items are part of the case. They're items of evidence, and we'd be objecting to their return.
Right, Mr. Alexander.
So, Your Honor, Mr. Mexicano was arrested 11 months ago. This investigation began about 4 or 5 months prior to that, I believe, when they collected this evidence initially. So I don't, I know the car is obviously relevant, but they're not going to bring the car into the courtroom. They're not going to drive it up for the jury. They've had sufficient time to take photographs of the car and present whatever photographs that they will as evidence. This is his mother's car. He's remaining in custody. It's not going back to him. It needs to go back to his mother, who's the rightful owner of the car. And
Melba, this just got me thinking real quick. We always see the quote unquote high profile, glamorous trials, right? With the high paid criminal defense attorneys. But this is really the day to day in the American judicial system, isn't it? For attorneys, they get, I assume I hear a lot of attorneys say, they suffer from burnout. It's just, doing this day in, day out. It's a tough job, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it totally can be a grind because, you're in court by 8:30, which means you're up at some ungodly hour. And then you're in court all morning, waiting for your case to be called, trying to talk to, if you're a prosecutor, you're trying to talk to witnesses, talk to victims, talk to defense counsel. You may have police officers coming in. If you're a public defender, you're scrambling in between, again, trying to talk to your clients, trying to, talk about alibi issues or bail and all of that. And then after the court day is over, your day is not over. You still have to go prepare your cases. You have to take depositions because Florida, for instance, is a state where we do depositions. So you're literally going all day for 12 hours. And, if you're a private defense attorney, you may make a little bit more money, but the reality is nobody's really getting rich doing this work. You're doing it because you're passionate about criminal justice. You're passionate about people and you want to serve. You want to serve the public.
I don't know what this person does. I always had to be at work at 8 a.m., work until 5 a.m. You must have been a associate producer in TV news, because that's what they used to do to us, is torture us. The other thing, obviously, is people are talking, she's going to very likely ask for bail yet again. She's accused of killing this guy. What is kind of the threshold to meet for a judge to give you bail? You're right here. Well, not at the moment, you're not, but you're living in Miami-Dade County. What are her chances today of getting bail? We're talking about Courtney Clenney, the OnlyFans model.
Yeah, I don't see Courtney Clenney getting bail. Usually, the judge is looking at a few factors. They're looking at the risk to the community. Is there a possibility that when you get out on bail, you're going to reoffend? You're going to hurt someone, you're going to tamper with a witness, something along those lines. Secondly, are you a flight risk? Are you going to grab your passport, take off, and go to a foreign country, especially one where, let's say, there's no extradition, and now we can't bring you back? So that's another issue that the judge is going to be looking at. And then also, they're going to be taking into consideration your ability to post, bond. So and also just be clear, the term bond and bail is often used interchangeably. So I often slip back and forth between the two, but they mean the same thing. But the judge will also be thinking in terms of what the defendant's ability to pay is in terms of setting any bail number. So let's say, for instance, as we, not to bring up Diddy again and again, but, Diddy is talking about, oh yeah, I can post $50 million bail. Okay, well then if a judge is setting it and saying, well, maybe I don't really want you to get out, they might set the bail at $100 million, knowing that you probably can't meet that threshold so that you stay in custody. I think here, because of the fact that in between the time that she committed the homicide, allegedly, and was arrested, she also had a run-in when she was with her parents at her parents' house in Texas, where she got very drunk and started harassing a young man. And so that's another aspect that I think the judge would have to take into consideration as to, if she gets out, how is she going to conduct herself? And is she going to be a risk to herself or others? So for all those reasons, I don't think that she's going to get bail.
Those are all good reasons. And that guy in Texas, he's a teenager that she was apparently coming on to, and he rebuffed her advances and she threatened to burn his house down. This is after this, right, Melba? This is after. Yeah. So this woman sounds a bit unhinged, to say the least. And did she get a plea offer? Not that we're aware of, unless we find out today. But we think she's going to try to get bail again, and maybe the judge here will set a trial date. But let's continue to listen in. This is obviously the local hearing here in Miami-Dade County. This is the Zoom directly from the courthouse, and we will continue to watch. I guess they're saving Courtney for a little bit later on. Melba, you've got to bounce in about 15 minutes, right?
Yeah, that's correct. Unfortunately, I'm at a conference, so.
Okay. Yeah, Melba's got a real job, unlike me, but she'll hang out for a little bit, and then we'll continue to watch it. So
I can answer this question, by the way, because this could be on other people's minds as well. Why is the bail setting this way with other defendants being heard? Because usually the judges want to get through as many cases as possible before they handle something that's high profile. They want to clear out the courtroom, get the defendants out, get their family members and others that may be present out of the courtroom, handle those cases, and then they can take the time and focus on Courtney Clenney's case. So it's not like a bunch of spectators in the courtroom. And then there might be longer arguments. So again, it just reserves more time to be able to handle that issue more effectively and efficiently, rather than jam up everybody else and have 100 people sitting there waiting just because you want to talk about the Courtney Clenney case for 30 minutes, an hour, or something along those lines.
Yeah. By the way, it's a good idea, since we have Melba for 16 more minutes. Ask Melba anything. How about that? You guys can ask her anything. Put in a triple Q. I will stay at the bottom of the chat, and I will go to her. I'll put the volume back up here. Once we get questions, I'll throw them to Melba.
Take a plea.
Right, Judge. But for appellate purposes, is he going to plea open to the court? Is he then, because the problem is that there's this substantive motion that then we would have to put on the hearing if it's denied. So just because we win the motion doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to find him in violation. That is just the reality of it.
I believe he would be more inclined to. I believe he would be almost.
I mean, I know that
certainly
you're
entitled.
Melba, it's a good question. It seems like it's always Florida, although Utah is giving everyone a run for their money with Corey Richins. You had Lori Vallow linked there. You've got this copycat Adelson's out there now. The list goes on. You had Ruby Frankie. But what is it you think about Florida? Florida happens to have very transparent, a lot of transparency here in terms of cameras and documents that can be made public. Is that it, or is Florida just a crazy place, but all its own?
It's both. It's both. So the fact that you can get so much coverage of cases in Florida definitely makes it fodder for lots of true crime streaming and all of that. But also at the same token, I think Florida tends to be a bit transient, I think, and a lot of people come down with, much like you think about LA and Hollywood back in the day, right? Kids packing up their stuff from Nebraska to go to Hollywood and make the big time. In some ways, Florida is like that. Folks come down, they want to make their way in the entertainment industry, or they want to get into something that has to do with the Latin American market, or whatever the case may be. And then you find people stay in Florida for 3 to 5 years and then kind of move on because, again, again, you want to get married, you want to, have a better cost of living, things like that. So of course, there is a different demographic of folks coming down now, especially since the pandemic, and now, of course, politics as well. So that's kind of changing the demographic, but that's just not changing the craziness. So I don't know if it's the heat, the water, but I think there's just something about the way that the communities are so transient, and it's not that, a lot of folks are born and raised, and, not to say there isn't, but it's just not that same level of community that you might find in other states.
The way people are saying Idaho and Utah too, but here are the parents from Brooklyn Rules. Are the parents completely exonerated? They were charged, but the charges were dropped, as far as I know, in July. So I would assume they are scot-free at this point, Melba.
Yeah, that's correct. I mean, now that does not preclude, if the prosecution finds more evidence or something along those lines, them coming back and charging them again on something else. Clearly not the same charge, but or maybe the same charge if they can find more evidence of tampering in some other way. But at this juncture, no, they have no pending charges. So it's not that they were exonerated because they weren't convicted or anything, but basically the charges are dropped so they can move on with their lives.
Yeah. From Peter John, interesting question. Do you think the fact that she was a famous with over 2 million Instagram followers, OnlyFans creator, does it make her more or less likely to be convicted? Is this kind of thing that will be suppressed from the jury? Are they going to know that she had this profile on Instagram and OnlyFans?
I mean, I don't think it would be suppressed. And I don't know that if I was defense counsel, I would have an issue with it, because again, you're going to paint her as a young woman who, is this, frail little thing. And, here she is, she's a model, she's this good person. And, maybe she's got a couple issues here and there, but she's certainly not a murderer. And she certainly, had to defend herself against this big, bad, horrible person. Right. And so if they're playing up that angle, the fact that she was an OnlyFans model is something that they'd want to include. Now, I don't think juries are necessarily going to hold that against her per se. Again, the key is going to be in jury selection. Bringing up in voir dire, which is actual jury selection, when you ask the questions, hey, do any of you do OnlyFans? Do you, follow anybody in particular? Do you have an OnlyFans account? Or do you have an opinion about people who are on OnlyFans and are, providing various types of entertainment? And kind of understand if people have a bias against someone just because they're on OnlyFans. And if they do, they would not be the right juror for that case. So they would likely be disqualified and would not be able to serve as a juror. So I don't know that the OnlyFans aspect would make it more likely that she'd get convicted.
There you go. The petty paralegal. This is my first time seeing Miss Melba. She's awesome. Love you. You always get the best guests. It's not just a tagline. It is our reality. The best guests in true crime, day in and day out. You got Meave Moen behind the scenes, otherwise known as Steve Cohen. And by the way, Steve Cohen on our second channel is going to be coming up and coming on with a show. We're still working it out on something at the intersection of these high profile trials and media. Steve has an IQ of about 787. So we're going to have him dumb it down. And he's also a potential stand-up comic. So it'll be must see YouTube TV. This is true. Courtney has aggressive behavior, aggravated assault. She has been in trouble with the law in the past, and you heard us talking about after all this happened, before the arrest, I believe she was got in trouble while visiting her parents for trying to seduce a young teen who rebuffed her, and she then threatened to set his house on fire, which isn't very nice. So we are here. We are waiting. I'm going to put the volume back on, get more questions. I'll ask them, and then Melba's going to be heading out in just a few minutes. Here we go. Love Melba. Look at this. Love Melba's jewelry. She's always looking extra. There you go. There you go.
That's why I'm the resident legal diva.
Yeah. I love that name.
Failed to appear twice.
then appeared for an in-person deposition in my office. We got through most of the deposition, but not everything, until he stormed out of my office. So we were not able to complete the deposition. I've since reset him twice, and he still has not appeared for deposition.
All right, and state, have you spoken to him?
Yes. The state has witness James Johnson, who is a relative of Earl Gathers, and he would like to address the court regarding the rule to show cause. There is information that he can provide that Mr. Gathers is interested in proceeding with this case and does want to cooperate. But Mr. Johnson, could you address the court? Mr. Johnson, you have to unmute yourself.
Pass this case for a second.
Sure. Shirley Pitts on page 22, motion to compel.
Yes, Judge, I've since received some photos I didn't even know existed. However, this is my second motion to compel.
Melba, does this judge, I don't know if you know her, let me get the name back up. Last name is Cruz, I believe.
Lauren
Laura
Sharon Cruz. Mhm.
Yeah. Would she be presiding over the case necessarily or no?
That is my understanding, unless, some conflict or something comes up. She has been assigned to preside over this case. She was a prosecutor with me, and she was always kind of fair, balanced, never unpleasant to be around or anything like that. So I think she would be a good fit for this case and keep things, on the right track and not allow a bunch of drama or anything like that.
Well, look at this, Melba. Did you know this? We have a town in Idaho named after you, Melba, Idaho.
No way. And ironically, I don't know if I probably mentioned on prior shows, I've spent a lot of time in Idaho because of my husband's family. So I know a few obscure towns that.
He's from there, your husband?
Yeah, he's actually originally from Washington State, but has significant family members all throughout Idaho. So yeah, it was a learning experience. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, Idaho's a beautiful place. Sadly, this week was 2 years since the horrible murders at the University of Idaho. We did a show on that.
I was actually in Idaho at the time that this happened. So I remember the
Whoa.
coverage and everything. It was just so intense. Yeah.
Yeah, really crazy. And that's going to be a mega trial. It's supposed to start August of 2025. So for this case, still no trial date set. I believe there were 2 previous trial dates that both fell by the wayside. Has horrible Courtney appeared yet? No, not yet. We are waiting for it. And we will be here for it. Melba, I know you're gonna have to jump in a minute, so feel free. I don't want to keep you past your time to leave. We got a mahalo here for you. But yeah. All right. Well, thank you, Melba. Appreciate you being here. You're there for a legal conference?
American Society of Criminology. So doing 3 presentations on hate crimes as well as community engagement. So that's going to be my next 2 days.
Yeah, well, you know what? Next year when you go, let us know. Maybe we'll go and we'll do podcasts live from there. That'd be cool.
That would be amazing. Let's make that happen.
All right. Awesome. Excellent. Well, thank you for joining us, and we'll get you back on soon.
Will do. Take good care, y'all.
All right. Take care. Bye-bye. And we're going to continue now just to watch this without the great legal mind. But here we go.
500.
We are waiting for Courtney Clenney here.
All right. There was no PC found, I think, for those. So do you have a bond on counts 4?
One was
Was what?
it was 5,000, 1,500, 2,500, and 500.
It's weird. Let me see the copy of the rest of it, David.
The information on October 7th.
She said count 1,
5,000, 5,000.
and no prejudice. Oh, maybe she meant, what was count 1?
5,000.
5,000. What was count 2?
1,500.
1,500. And count three?
2,500.
Okay, and count four.
500.
Four is 500. Okay, so count one will be 2,500. Count two, you said was 2,500?
1,500.
Okay, so that I'll reduce to 1,000. Count three, I'll reduce to 1,500, and count four can remain 500. I didn't write that down correctly. Pablo Rosa on page 23.
Yes, Judge. So I have received some discovery just this morning in court. I haven't had an opportunity to go over all of it, but I did receive some offense incident reports, the stolen property receipt, photos, and in those photos, the consent to search form. Also based off of the crime scene reports, it looks like I'm also missing the full latent print report. And then I'm still missing the fire investigator report, CCTV, property receipts, lab request form, and lab reports.
Okay, so I'm going to grant it for everything else. So you are missing property receipts. You've got the stolen vehicle report?
Yes, I did.
So granted, keeping it on for sounding and trial. Right, let's go back to Earl Gathers and Christopher Gathers on page 20.
So, Your Honor, the state does have good contact, and we would just request to have a deposition set.
Judge, just based off of how Earl Gathers behaved during the deposition, I would request that he either appear on Zoom or appear in
So
court.
where, if we have Mr. Johnson, why can't I have Mr. Gathers?
Hello?
Yes, Mr. Johnson, I don't really need to hear from you. I need to hear from Mr. Gathers, okay? I appreciate the fact that you're here, but I need to hear from Mr. Gathers himself.
Okay, all right, Judge. Okay,
Thank you.
you're welcome.
All right, can we get Mr. Gathers himself?
The state tried several times to reach him by phone. He is working, and
So Judge, we do have the ability to get him to appear at his deposition. The problem is getting him to come to court. We know this was on calendar. We attempted to get him. We could only get Mr. Johnson, which doesn't fit the need that Your Honor is looking for.
No.
So we are asking to give us an opportunity, one last opportunity before Your Honor excludes him, to have him
Right.
appear.
I'm issuing a summons for him. He needs to appear in 2 weeks on Zoom himself. Not excluding him. I'm not issuing the rule to show cause for him, but I am issuing a summons. He needs to be here in 2 weeks. And then if he doesn't appear himself, then it will be a rule to show cause. All right, that takes us through everything, I think, except for Mr. Lachey. Is there anything else that needs to be addressed besides Mr. Lachey? Yes,
Yes, Judge, on page 1, it's Hayward Walker.
Walker. Okay,
It's that arraignment we addressed. We
Yes.
called corrections to have him brought on Zoom, but his mother is still present and would like to request to change the stay away order to a no harmful contact stay away order.
okay. All right. Okay, Ms. Espinosa, who are you here for?
Your Honor, I was noticed for Luis Mexicano, motion for return of property at 10:30.
Okay. We addressed it already. I don't think that I realized that it was on for 10:30, but I denied it. Was there anything that you were in agreement to turning back over?
No, Your Honor.
Okay, so it's denied, for the duration, so until the case goes to trial, probably, okay?
Thank you, Your Honor.
All right, thank you. All right, so then, Mr. Walker,
Yeah, so I don't know if you'd like to colloquy Miss Walker right now, or
I can swear her in.
I did.
All right, one moment. All right, Ms. Walker, what's your full name and date of birth?
Cynthia Elaine Bethel, October 1st, 1949.
Okay, so Ms. Bethel, you are the listed victim, in your son's case. My understanding is that you would like to modify the stay away order?
Yes,
All right, I need for him to be brought on Zoom so that I can talk to him about that. I can talk to you a little bit about it, but, I need to also talk to him. So he's in custody right now. I don't know whether he's going to bond out, but if he did bond out, would you be in fear of him?
I wouldn't be in fear of him, no. But I know he can't come live with me.
No.
Yeah, but no, I'm not in fear.
So we can make sure that he doesn't live with you. I can modify the stay away order. It means that you still have a stay away order in place. It's just a modified no harmful agreement, which means that if he demonstrates any threatening behavior, which includes words, it includes verbal threats, it's anything. You'll have a copy of a stay away order that you can show the police when you call them to say, listen, I'm still under the court's protection. And he's going to be, if he were to be released, he would be rearrested, immediately for violating that. So I can modify that. You just have to, realize that it will be on you to call the police if you feel threatened in any way, and let
Yes.
them know that you still have, this modified no harmful contact order. Okay.
Yes,
But I need to also go over that with him. Okay. That will allow you to, if you choose to visit him, if he remains in jail, if you choose to visit him, you can. Okay. So let me see if we can get him on Zoom. Officer Perry, you're trying to get him on Zoom? Yes, sir. Okay. All right. So we have sounding and trial dates in January, and then I'll go over that with him. Okay. Anything further before I go to Mr. Lachey? All right, Mr. Rivas, good. I'm glad that you're here. Actually, let me see if I can get your attorney back on Zoom. Okay. All right, so, the state has offered you an offer that can get your case dismissed, but I need for him to be here so he can, at least on Zoom, so that you can talk to him about it. Do you want to go out and call him and see if he can just pop back
Yeah,
on Zoom?
I'll-
Okay, thank you. Because he was here this morning. Okay. All right, let's go back to, and then who are the folks in the back? For who?
Yes, Judge. So, and this is my first opportunity actually meeting the family. They only speak Spanish, but they are present. They want your honor to know that they are present. This is for Marcus Brown's case.
Okay.
It's a 2020 incident that, the arrest just took place this year.
Right.
So, but they're present and they just wanted to let the court know.
Okay.
And I'll let them know.
All right. Well, I wish I had an interpreter. You can interpret for them. Just tell them that they're welcome to come for any court hearings that they choose to be here for. If they want to be here every time, they can absolutely be here every time. I said it in January 15th, I think.
Yeah.
January 15th is the next court setting and they're absolutely welcome to come. Okay. All right. So let's go to Mr. Lachey. There are only 7. All right. So I'm almost done with my order. Ms. Wissett and Mr. Lett, just to give you an idea, I'm actually going to allow for there to be limited testimony from every single one of the victims in the case. And I need for Mr. Lachey to know that as well. So I've gone through about half of them as to what I'm limiting it to, but I think that it's actually important to show the entire timeline. And there's a lot of case law that will back me up for allowing for there to be limited testimony in any of the cases that we go to trial on from every single victim. So he needs to know that. Will it be appealable? Possibly, but I think that I can craft my order to be in compliance with the law. And that's how the law is set up, is to allow for, these victims to be heard from, so that they can corroborate the statements that are made by whatever victim is at trial. So just so that you know, Mr. Lachey, the jury will be hearing from every single person that you allegedly did this to, in any case that goes to trial. So if there's a plea offer that's on the table, you should probably consider it because you have 7 tries of this. And I'm going to allow for there to be testimony from everybody that you allegedly did this to. So I need for you to know that. And Ms. Wissett, just so that you know, I know that you guys had picked the case that you're going on. I think that this is a prime example of why these Williams rule laws exist to protect these victims and corroborate this testimony. And this is the exact case that the jury needs to hear from everybody. So I want for this case to go to trial next year. So I'm going to finish my order. And I want to go ahead and give it sounding and trial dates. So it's going to be specially set at some point in time next year. Mr. Lachey, you need to think about what you're doing. If there's a plea offer here, you need to seriously consider it because you have 7 cases. You're facing a ton of prison time. The media is going to follow you for the entirety of this case. And all of these victims are going to be testifying for each of these trials. So as I said to you before, the fact that you put them through the hearing and coming here and testifying to all of this, that's absolutely fine. You have that right. You have the right to take every single case that you have to trial. I will happily go to trial on all of these cases. But I'm going to allow everybody to testify. Just so you know.
A couple points of matter, Your Honor.
Yeah.
The last hearing, the court said that they would be providing,
I am gonna,
of the transcript of the hearing.
oh, do you not have a copy of it?
I do not have a
Okay,
copy of that.
yes, I can give you the transcript of it, yes.
Thank you, Your Honor. Also, I do know that there were depositions taken. I don't believe any of the victims yet. However, and while opposing counsel, of course, did provide me with the notices that she had, those notices don't have the court reporter or the court reporting agencies on there.
Ms. Wissett, do you know whether any of those depositions took place?
So the issue is they were depositions set of just the law enforcement officers, and it was long before I had taken on the case. So since there's no transcripts, I'm not able to tell if they were ever actually taken. I can reach out to those officers to see if they remember, but I have about as much information as Mr. Lett has on that.
Okay, and you don't know who the court reporters were? Is that in the court file anywhere about who any of the court reporters were? Okay,
I just have the
so,
names.
all right. And then where do you stand with the depositions of the victims? Are you allowing those to take place prior to trial? Does the plea offer change if those victims are deposed?
So the offer previously was 15 years in state prison, followed by 10 to close all 7 of his cases. We did withdraw from plea negotiations prior to beginning the Williams rule. However, I know Mr. Lett is a new defense attorney on the case. If he speaks to Mr. Lachey and wants to come to the state with an offer, I'm reasonable. I'll entertain an offer at that point. However, if any of the victims are deposed, we will not be entertaining plea negotiations.
Okay, and that's fine. So right now I'm going to give it one further status date before the end of the year for you guys to discuss where you are with depositions. I will get you my finalized order by the end of next week, actually by Thursday of next week. But I'm telling you what's in it. It will be limited so that it doesn't become a feature of the trial, but I think that the timeline of what he allegedly did is incredibly important given how he did it. So it's coming in. And I need for you to know that when you're having those plea discussions with him. You know, will one case be appealable? Yes. Gets appealed, comes back, we tailor it, go to the next case. Gets appealed, come back, we tailor it, go to the next case. Gets appealed. We will go through all 7 of these cases. All 7. I will happily hear them all next year. So you need to really talk to your attorney. Do you understand? All right. So, yeah, I mean, and this is, yeah. Yeah, I've heard from all of the victims, and as you know, Mr. Lachey, you don't need to talk about the case. When they all came to testify, I found them all to be entirely credible. Because they were entirely credible. Their testimony was heartbreaking. So, I mean, one of the harder hearings that I've had to sit through. So you need to have a real conversation with your attorney. Because we'll go through, you know, every single hoop with this case, with these cases, to make sure that they get tried correctly. All right, and fairly. Okay, but you need to come to terms with what's actually happening in your cases. All right, so I will set it for one further status at the end of the year.
Seven.
12/27. And we'll pick a date, a realistic trial date based upon the depositions that need to happen if it's going to trial. And I'm encouraging Mr. Lachey to have some realistic conversations with his attorney. If he doesn't want to have realistic conversations, that's fine. You have the absolute right to take every single one of these cases to trial. And I will happily do it. All right. All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Judge.
Yes.
You're granting the Williams rule, the order will be provided.
Yes, the order will be provided on Thursday. Yes.
And is that for all of you?
Well, no, it's only filed on one. It's only filed on one currently. Yes. Yep.
Thank you.
You understand that the court's providing a transcript of the Williams.
Yes, I will
the-
provide you a transcript of the Williams rule.
Obviously, we just
I may actually
reserve
have
any
it. Oh, you know what?
objections to that.
It's
based
at
on-
home. So do you have a copy that you can print actually for Mr. Lott right now? My copy is at home.
Sorry, what are you asking for? The transcript?
Oh, no, not Miss. Oh, Anna's here. Sorry for
Oh,
Anna.
sorry.
The transcript for the Williams rule hearings.
And regarding the other depositions, short of, this was that, speaking to the officers, I guess, I mean, really, we need the court reporter agency information.
I don't know how to, unless if it's in CJIS, that's the
Yep.
only place that I would know to look for it. And then Ms. Wissett,
The only other thing that I know that, his prior attorney has an attorney taking over for, resolving her matters. We've been in contact with her. She doesn't have anything. She did say like, maybe try to speak with the family, but the family's kind of difficult to get in touch with and trying to grieve and separate themselves from, all the remaining, issues. I don't know if it would be appropriate or the court would entertain granting an order allowing us to, obtain the attorney's laptop and get any information off of that laptop in order to try to.
Ms.
I need.
Wissett,
Not to, it's just to make it easier. It was only 4 officers that were previously set for deposition. I'm gonna reach out to them. If they don't recall being deposed or I can't track down that information, the transcripts don't exist, so there's not gonna be like a double impeachment issue. I would just agree to those officers being reset for depositions that Mr. Lett could proceed. I think that's easier than going through Ms.
that may
Duncan's
be,
records and
let's just depose everybody. Let's just get it
Yeah.
all ready.
Okay.
Let's get ready to go. I know that mine was holding you up, but I'm telegraphing what it is that, I mean, I had telegraphed it, I think, after the hearing, after all day of listening to that testimony. But I know that you're waiting on that order, but otherwise, let's get the discovery going so that, if one of these cases is going to go to trial, let's get it to trial in the new year. Can she send it just to your email?
Of course, absolutely.
Okay, because it's
Yes,
300
that's
pages.
easier. That's for me as well. Thank
All
you so
right,
much.
so she's gonna send that to you now.
There were 4, Officer Harris, Officer Libraga.
I have a stated depot that we think on 5/5/23 at 3:30 p.m. I don't know that house, narrow down the court order.
And we don't know who it was taken by the defense. I don't know if the defense counsel used their own, separate court reporting agency. There's nothing on there. And
Okay, so let's reset. Let's just have everything reset.
And we are being joined by Dr. Patrice Berry. Thank you for being here. She was just in the chat and now she's here. She's going to give us some of her own insight into Courtney Clenney. She's a psychologist. The practice is in Fredericksburg, Virginia, 4 Rivers Psychological Services. And it stands for the 4 types of therapy, which is therapy, psychological testing, coaching and public speaking and group trainings, 4 types of things she does at Four Rivers. While we're waiting for Courtney Clenney, this is a woman who had 2 million plus Instagram followers and OnlyFans page. She's in this tumultuous relationship with a guy named Christian Obumseli. They had run-ins, DV run-ins with each other. And then on April 3rd, 2022, oh boy, what just happened? She stabs him. What are you thinking in terms of personality and what is happening here? And I'm going to try to check in on the Zoom. Hopefully comes back up. But go ahead, Dr. Berry.
Their relationship definitely seemed toxic. And based on some of the videos that have come out, when he would try to leave, it looked like she would get physically aggressive. Now, that's just based on the videos and things that have been released pre-trial. And also looking at the elevator video as well, because I think that was the day of the incident that they were already in an argument. Another concern that I have for this case is that it seems like she would drink a lot of alcohol, and alcohol it inhibits behavior, where behavior that maybe somebody might not do sober, sometimes for some people that are already aggressive, drinking can increase issues. And there seem to be a lot of fears of abandonment, rejection, and their relationship just seemed very, very toxic.
Yeah. As a matter of fact, when they arrested her, she was allegedly at a rehab facility in Hawaii when they arrested her. Space Coast and the COE are working behind the scenes to try to figure out exactly what's going on. Julie Frew, who's our amazing mod, sent me a super detailed timeline. So I'm just going to kind of go through it a little bit and then ask Dr. Berry some questions. But the two meet, Courtney Clenney and Christian Obumseli, they meet in November of 2020. So this is about 2 years roughly before, less than 2 years before the murder happens, or the death happens. And they moved to Miami together in January of 2022. This happens April 3rd of 2022. So February, March, 3 months, I have to use my fingers. 3 months later, this incident happens. Back on July of 2021, Courtney Clenney is arrested in Las Vegas for domestic battery. And then in March, Dr. Berry, again, about a month before this happens, Courtney allegedly tells friends that she no longer wants to be with Christian Obumseli, claiming that he is really not the guy you think he is. What do you think she meant by that statement?
That could also be projection, and it reminds me of the Sarah Boone case, where she really thought she was the victim, and those things she was recording on her phone made George look so horrible, when really the rest of us were looking at him and seeing, oh my, like, she is treating him horribly. And so sometimes a person's perception of that other person's behavior, especially if they're denying any of their own behavior, because one of the videos that I saw where he's just trying to walk away and she is physically attacking him, calling him names, all of that. I don't know that she would admit that she was doing anything wrong in that. And so sometimes people will project their own behavior or their own onto the other person.
Yeah.
Now their relationship did not seem healthy. and I don't know what was happening behind the scenes. Nothing. I haven't personally seen anything of him being physical with her. I know the defense alleges that there are videos, there are things that we haven't seen yet. I still think that the perfect thing to do in a situation like this is to separate. Like, this was not healthy. It was toxic. This is not a safe relationship for anyone.
People in these unhealthy relationships, though, they become codependent in a bizarre way, right?
Mm-hmm.
Why is that? Why do they? I mean, they kind of rely or feed off of the the dysfunction.
And sometimes the first week or first month or the first part of the relationship might have been really good. And toxic relationships aren't toxic all the time. It does this cycle where you have a honeymoon phase, things are good, and then tension builds, and then there's a harmful event, and then you just keep going back around this cycle. It's not horrible all of the time. And then sometimes, so she was attractive, and I don't know if that played a role for him of what, because like she has all these fans, she's making all this money, the life that they could kind of have together. I think he traded stocks.
Yeah.
And there was this status thing with the two of them. And
Yeah.
but nothing is worth being in a situation that is not safe.
Yeah, he was into cryptocurrency trading. They were living in boy, here we go again. They're living in a condo that was $11,000 a month, just to give you an idea, which is welcome to Miami. For a lot of people in Miami, that's like what they pay for their parking spaces, but it's kind of crazy. Back to Aunt Clara for a minute. She was just saying that the Ellen Greenberg case has haunted her. That case is haunting me. If you do not know the Ellen Greenberg story, please watch our show last night and then please share it on all social media. It is probably the biggest miscarriage of justice that I have ever seen or covered. But it is a young woman, 2011, is found stabbed to death 20 times. Initially ruled a homicide, then undetermined, then eventually ruled an unaliving after closed door meetings between the prosecutors, the medical examiner, and police. Turns out that the fiance she was living with, his uncle, is a very high profile judge, a wealthy judge in the suburb of Philadelphia, who's connected to now Governor Josh Shapiro, who is an AG looking at the case. And a lot of things are just horrific. Looks like someone's getting away with a pretty serious crime. And again, if you have not or don't know about it, I've been telling everybody, for whatever reason, when we do that story, we get like a half or a third of our views, which drives me crazy. And I what do you think that is, Dr. Berry, by the way? Why do you think that is? I have no idea.
And it might be that people aren't searching for it. I know for popular cases, like the cases that people are searching for, some things get boosted on the algorithm, some things don't. But and then depending, because if you get the yellow flag, I feel like YouTube restricts it if you get the little, if certain words are said.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
20 injuries like that, I have never heard of somebody unaliving themselves. That is not.
And by the way, an independent autopsy showed that 2 of the injuries were post-mortem. So it's kind of hard to stab yourself when you're not alive anymore. COE, what's happening?
Hey, just wanted to give you a quick update. So the
Please.
court keeps ending the Zoom call for some reason.
It's wonderful.
So we keep all being removed from the meeting and have to log in. So we're waiting to be let in again. So as soon as that happens, we will let you know. But I'm keeping an eye on that.
COE, can you also check out
I'll check in with
SVN is the pool. Thank you. Okay.
All right.
So we are still waiting for Courtney Clenney. We are dependent on this, which is a courtroom Zoom. So as soon as we get that back up, that's what we've been watching the whole time. Black Widow, love the authoritative COE voice. I'm so glad you brought that up, because when we're in the car, my daughters go, "Hey, mommy, whenever you're on TV or on YouTube, why do you always use that voice?" Which cracks me up because it's so funny. Because when you're a TV reporter, it's like when you're coming up the ranks, they're always like, "Hi, this is blah, 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 blah." Everyone does it, and then you get yelled at. So it's kind of like a huge insult, which the kids don't know that they are delivering. And I don't know, I get a sick, twisted joy out of that every time they say it. So now, right now, she is cursing me out. There is a petition. Hopefully, Julie Frew and the other mods can get the petition for Ellen Greenberg up. They are just trying to get, they don't even have standing. The case has never been investigated. This high profile judge, who's the uncle, he was allowed into the apartment. He was able to take electronics. For whatever reason, they had a professional, literally, it's called crime scene cleanup in Philadelphia, went and cleaned the scene. I mean, just none of it makes any sense. Is Clenny live today? We're hoping so. And by the way, the usual Great Scots, your true crime Phil with Scott Duffy and Phil Waters. Scott has a once in a year conference today, so he's not going to be here. Rob D'Amico is going to be here with Phil. We're going to talk about this case. It's been a brutal week. We covered the 4 brutal murders at the University of Idaho. And then last night we did Greenberg. I'm interested, Dr. Berry, too. We did this. It was the 2-year mark since these murders at the University of Idaho. And I'll be honest, I mean, it's obviously incredibly depressing. We honored the victims. But I noticed also with that there was kind of a little bit less traction. Do you think it's just hard for people, even though you want to memorialize and you want to remember that when you're talking about a quadruple murder, stabbing murder of 4 college students who are, good looking, smart, not even in the prime of their lives, it just becomes too much for people to kind of want to absorb. I mean, I know in true crime, we cover a lot of crazy things, but I think people were having a hard time just even trying to remember them because it's so painful.
And I don't know how it was there. I'm a graduate of Virginia Tech. We had a mass incident there
Sure.
back in 2000, I want to say, because I graduated in 04. I believe it was in 05 or 06, something like that. And when that happened, the way the media swarmed on campus, so there are still memorials, there are still things because it's been years, but it can bring up a lot of pain. And I believe it was off campus, and it's so painful. And I think sometimes people do things along the way to remember people. Like that's just a really, really tough case. And I don't know if it being, because I know the trial has been moved out of the area, and which brings that media pool away as well. But my heart goes out to that community.
Yeah, here we go. I was a freshman in college when that happened. We all put the Virginia Tech logo on our Facebook profiles back when it was new and just for college students. What has happened to Facebook, by the way? I mean, first of all, no one, under the age of like 35 uses it. That's number one. But it used to be like your friends on there. Now it's like every other second it's an ad or it's someone I don't care about that I'm not even friends with. Zuckerberg, what's your problem, man? How are you even staying in business with this? Anyway, so back to Courtney Clenney here for a minute. By the way, Dr. Berry, do you believe in that we are the only living creatures in the infinite universe, or do you believe that there's other life? Because Wednesday we did a UFO hearing show, and someone was saying that was very, very much needed psychologically to get a little break from true crime. So are we alone in this eternal universe, Dr. Berry?
And I'm open to if we aren't, like, I think it would be very, I don't know, to think that we were the only ones in a infinite universe. So I think it's possible. And I know that a lot of that stays classified, and I don't know if we will see some of that. But I think those hearings are cool. I know people get in trouble. Is it still Area 51? I know people get in trouble for getting too close. And and I watch a lot of like NCIS or shows that will have episodes where it's like, are there these other things going on? I think Tracker did an episode recently with something like that. So I'm open to it. I wouldn't think somebody was delusional if they had that belief. But yeah.
Jennifer, by the way, this is Dr. Berry's channel here. It's Dr. Patrice Berry. Check it out. Subscribe. You will learn stuff. Look at this. This is the smartest person I've ever met. I've never had Twitter. Jennifer Corner. One of the great digital cesspools of our time, but it's highly addictive. COE, give me good news only. In your reporter voice. In your reporter voice.
No, I'm just gonna be myself and do my regular voice. I don't know how to say this to you. Just FYI, we have 1,700 people listening to this. So I just got off the phone
This is not a good
with
start.
someone inside of the judge chambers, and they said that the Courtney Clenney matter was discussed at 9:45 for less than 4 minutes.
What not we were on. What are you talking about? How's that possible? We were on.
I was watching y'all at,
Yeah.
wow.
We were on right at 9:30. What are they talking
Yeah,
about?
so she did say that Courtney Clenney was not on camera.
Okay.
And
I don't understand.
yeah, so if you want, I'm trying to retrieve it and trying to see what they found out. I mean,
All right, can you try to go back and find it then? Is it possible that all of us missed it? I mean, how is that possible? How would Julie Frew miss it? How would the entire chat miss it? Or did they give us the wrong look at this is thank God it's Friday. Look, Jenny Allison, I'm so confused. Let's go, STS Nation.
give me a minute. I'll be right back. Just hold down the fort, you two. You're doing great.
Julie Frew, please, for my own side, I know I have a psychologist here, but for my psychological health, please let me. Julie Frew, weren't we were on at 9:30, maybe 9:31 for my own mental health. Please tell me that. Is it humanly possible that 1,800 people did not hear a thing about Courtney Clenney? Here's Julie Frew. Ha Joel. Probably happened when you muted things, Joel. Great. Thinking that we were going to see her. Yeah, that's very possible, by the way. That is very possible. The COE is going to go back right now. Everyone stick around for a minute as our chat empties out. But the COE is good. She's going to, as they say in the TV news business, she will re-rack it and get it to where we need to be, where we were talking. I was actually expecting Courtney to be in court, and I was looking for her. So, yes, please do blame me. But we're going to hang on here. Yeah, Joel needs pug kisses. My pug does not stop kissing me. COE is going to go back, and we're going to continue to talk about this case for a little bit. And by the way, we're doing it again with 2 investigators at 12:30. But we were talking about how this is a dysfunctional relationship, Dr. Berry. And so they broke things off. And then he moves back in. Christian Obumseli moves back in with Courtney Clenney on sad day, April Fools. They should have known. April Fools of 2022, April 1st. Then on April 2nd, so he moves back in on April 1st. April 2nd, police respond. This is now that infamous elevator video, right? So on April 2nd, police respond to a call about a disturbance and arrived to find that Clenny had kicked Obumseli out of their house again, and he allegedly tried to follow her into the elevator. Clenny asked cops for a restraining order, but that's the video where she's beating on him, claiming that he stalks her. Christian Obumseli later returns to the apartment that day, and they seem to patch things up. The next day, all hell breaks loose. But what about up to this point? I mean, it's obviously incredibly volatile, but not even a day has passed. I mean, we're talking about minutes and hours of for the volatility to kind of creep to the surface.
And some people can confuse that toxicity for passion and love. And it really does just break my heart for his family, because in a relationship like that, where because he probably could have pressed charges against her for what happened in the elevator. And I don't know that he would have. And with the George Torres case, we talked a lot about male victims of DV and how sometimes they don't come forward. So I don't think anyone has a right to put their hands on anyone. I think if things are that escalated, you walk away, you leave. And her idea of him stalking him might have been him trying to come home. Like that might have been her idea of him stalking her, or like just wanting to know, where are you? When are you coming home? Or something like that. Like that could have been the idea of stalking. And I'm interested to see what comes out during trial, especially some of the digital evidence, because I'm sure there are probably messages. There's probably more to this relationship that we
Well,
have not seen.
Yeah, well, her parents, and she, the parents were charged for trying to hack into his computer. So there was obviously something. By the way, can you guys let me know, am I completely out of focus, or can I just not get the smudge marks off of my glasses? I don't know which it is. Lindsay Gandy, who's a friend of the show, do you think they were love bombing each other in the beginning? I don't even know what that means. What is love bombing, and were they?
Love bombing, it comes out of research on narcissists that
How did I become my dad all of a sudden? Go ahead. I don't know how this happened. I used to be the youngest guy all the time. Now I'm the oldest, and I don't know what words mean, but go ahead.
With love bombing, it's where they're really positive. So it's where on the first date, they're asking you to marry them. Like they're the best love. Like this is the best relationship ever, but there's no actual depth to the relationship. And individuals that are not safe in relationships often start off with love bombing because they want to get the person very attached quickly, because there is going to be harm that comes. And some people confuse that love bombing for that true self, and maybe they can get back to that part of the relationship. And I think sometimes people because sometimes they'll say, oh, she's so crazy, or he's so this, or he's so, and I don't want to minimize if something is unsafe. And based on what I've seen, their relationship did not seem safe. And the reason why I say safe is because people will often argue about, if I'm saying that I think they might be emotionally harmful toward, or physically harmful. They might just be like, oh no, they might minimize it. But do you feel safe with that person? Because often they'll say like, no, like I'm walking on eggshells. I never know when they're gonna go off, or what mood, or when she drinks, this is what happens. Because it did seem like she was more erratic when she drank, based on some of the things I've seen.
Yeah. From Rosie here, I did not know this. Joel, he had the key to the elevator. She said he was talking to her, but so she had to follow him. That's interesting. COE, how are we?
Hey, I'm texting you. Check your text.
Oh boy. Going from bad to worse on a Friday.
Unless
don't
you want
worry.
me to say it on air.
No, I don't. Hold on. Well, I don't see anything. You just texted me?
I know sometimes it takes a minute.
Here we go. Hold on a sec. Oh boy. Oh boy. So I screwed that up, is what the COE's telling me. So we were talking when this apparently happened. Because I was waiting to see Courtney Clenney, because she's only been inside the courtroom. So everyone can blame me. And that stinks. That's all I can say. But we're going to get it somehow, one way or the other. And we're going to come back at 12:30. We've got Phil Waters, and we've got Rob D'Amico of the FBI. So my sincerest apologies. We had Melba Pearson on, who's awesome. And she was giving us her legal insight. And little did we know that the actual legal, back and forth was happening behind us, literally in real time. So my apologies. We're going to get that back. We're going to have it at 12:30. Dr. Patrice, cannot thank you enough for jumping in. We'll get you back on the show soon. Everyone loves having you here. You gave us some good insight while it lasted, and we will try to get you back as soon as next week. So thank you for being here. It was my screw up. Everyone send me hate mail at Ileana at whatever. That's my wife. The COE at hatemail.com. Apologies for that. Melba Pearson, thank you. And Dr. Patrice Berry, thank you for being here. Love you, America. And I'm looking at someone from South Africa. Love you, South Africa. Let's get justice here for Christian Obumseli. We'll be back at 12:30 p.m. Eastern Time.